Matthews. I'm moderating the session, not presenting it. And we have three wonderful people here, and they're all friends of mine. They're all connected to the board, either on it or married to it. Here we go. We're ready to go in a minute. And I can tell you, let's do that right now. I can give you a little bit of a bio on these people. Our first presenter, when we get going here, is Bitsy Anderson. Bitsy's there. She is the wife of Terry, who is on our board, and the immediate past chairman. Bitsy is a retired reading specialist from Maryland who was diagnosed with IBM in 2008. She currently serves on the Patient and Family Advisory Council for the Johns Hopkins Neuroscience Department. Bitsy and her husband Terry lead TMA's, and this is impressive, Maryland, Delaware, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia support group. I don't know of anybody who leads a support group that covers 4 states. And this year, on October 19th, at Centennial Park in Ellicott City, Maryland, there will be the 10th anniversary of the group's Myositis Run, Walk, and Roll 5K race, which these guys organize, to raise money for TMA and Johns Hopkins research to find a cure for myositis. So far, over $230,000 has been raised by the efforts of Bitsy and her husband, and with a lot of help, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're ready. Okay. Let's go. Here's a few notes, housekeeping notes. I've already told you kind of what we are. This is myositis doesn't stop my life. And these are 3 of the greatest examples I know of people who did not let a diagnosis of myositis slow them down at all. They have amazing stories to tell. Please remember at the end of the evaluate, or at the end of the session, to complete your evaluation. It is very, very helpful to TMA to have those evaluations turned out. So I may hound you as you leave the room if you haven't turned it in. And we're fairly small, I don't have to worry about you blocking doors here. And we hope we get through the presentation quick enough, and we will have time at the end for questions. Okay, Bitsy, please.
Good morning. Let me just make sure this is on. You guys are already a star in my eyes because you are up at 7 o'clock in the morning to be sitting listening to 3 people you don't even know. So, congratulations. I'm very happy you're here, and you heard some of the story, but I also have the privilege of having a doctor, Dr. Lisa Christopher Stein from Johns Hopkins Myositis Center. So that's where I received my treatment. But anyway, starting today, food for thought. I want you to think about this while I read it. Our happiness is not set in stone. Our genes influence 50% of our happiness. Circumstances like income, environment, 10%. Our daily activities and conscious choices make up 40%. Therefore, our thoughts and actions make a difference in our life. And whether we look at life in a positive attitude or a negative attitude. You are a member of an elite group, very rare and probably a group you never wanted to be a part of. But just a little statistics. IBM, 5 to 9 cases per 1 million. The male to female ratio is 3 to 1. It's actually increasing because I did go to Dr. Christopher Stein to get some of the data. So it was 2 to 1 and now it's 3 to 1. DM and PM, 2 per 100,000 per year in the general public. Female to male dominance, 2 to 1. You have to educate your doctor. How many times have you had to go into a doctor and tell them exactly what you have and the symptoms and how it manifests itself? But for myositis patients, when you go to a cardiologist, unless you have a specific specialist that deals with myositis, you're always educating them. One of the things I wanted to show you too is I use this for my physicians, and TMA has it, and you can get it free. It's a physician's guide to myositis. so it's a good resource for them. Everyone seems to manifest themselves, the disease differently. Some start with dysphagia, some start with weakness in hands, some start with weakness in legs. Your story is different than mine, and mine may be different from yours, but I hope that you can see that these are the things that are important in our life and how we deal with the journey with myositis. This is how I want you to see me. I want you to see the heart, not the chart. I want the IBM does not mean my life is over. And the dealings that I have in life, I'm responsible for my happiness, no one else. So I need to make sure that I've got the activities in my life that are important to me, the passions that I have, the hobbies I have. I am determined to stay as positive and as active as possible. I am fiercely independent, much to my husband's chagrin. But you can do things. There are things that you find that you can't do anymore, but there are other things that you can substitute for that. Yes, at times my body experiences technical difficulties, but there are ways of getting around that also. This is one of the sayings that I love, because this is how we live our life, and you probably can attribute to this and add to this even. It's not in my DNA to give up. If I can't figure out how to do it, I keep working on it until I do. But she stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. We're always, that's our job right now, is to adapt to the situations we have. We adapt to our mobility. Some of us are in power chairs. Some of us are using walkers. Some of us are using canes. But we have to adapt. We adapt to dressing, buttons. We adapt to cooking. Our homes have to be adapted and modified to meet our need. But that's our job right now, to make sure that we're as happy and live the best life that we can. Okay, this is how do I find enjoyment? Well, I love books. I'm a reading specialist. I forgot to mention that. I think it was mentioned earlier. But so I'm in 2 book clubs with a great group of women. We have tremendous social gatherings with friends. And I also have friends that have built ramps so I can get into their homes. We have a 10-foot portable ramp that we take with us, and that helps us get into our friends' homes. We love the theater, so we're always going to plays. Here we are with some friends. Here we are at one of the plays. I take classes at the community college, alternative PE and wheelchair yoga. I also, the nuns over there, it's a fun thing. Our parish has a variety show every year. And so I usually find some crazy thing to do. I've embarrassed my kids more than once. The grandkids love it, the kids are embarrassed. But that I did, We Are Family by Sister Sledge, and that was only topped by doing the moonwalk with Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. So you can be a little crazy. But all those things add to my life. I love history, so I'm taking history classes. I got a new iWatch and iPhone, so I took classes for that. So there's whatever interests you, there's a wealth of information out there and a wealth of things for you to do. When you can't do the horseback riding, the kayaking, and the hiking that I used to be able to do. So I find enjoyment. Terry and I love to travel. We still do. Do I have to do accessibility travel? Yeah. Is it a little different? Yes, it is. But you adapt. You go back to where you adapt in life. And MDA has wonderful resources for you to travel through adaptation. I've got some information on that I'll give you later. We have, there's some of the things I can't do anymore, so I make, I make jewelry. I'm wearing my braces. I make greeting cards. My greeting cards are homemade. Now I'm in the process of getting a service dog. Actually, I think the dog is training me rather than me training the dog. But when I get back, I should be matched. And why do I want a service dog? I want a service dog to help me get the phone when I can't get to the phone, to pick up things. The service dog is being trained to open the door, to pay at the cash register at the grocery store. So there are a lot of things that you can add to your life to make it a lot more enjoyable. Is it different than what you planned? Absolutely. But you also can be tremendously happy in your journey. What are the things that bring purpose? This is in a way how I give back. I've had so many people help me in my life. That the Parent Family Advisory Council from Johns Hopkins, it's a group of about 10 people that get together every other month, and we try to make things better for patients. It's incredible. They now have a way of video physicals. In other words, they can contact you at home, for those who are homebound, and do a physical online. And that was one of the things that we kind of, through the brainstorming of the group, we also have changed the way the process of bringing patients into the office. You don't go into a room and sit there for 30 to 40 minutes before a physician comes in. They have interns with iPads that will take all your information while you're sitting in the waiting room. I mean, we've really made a difference for the patients that are coming into the myositis or neuroscience department at Johns Hopkins. So another way that we've given back is, one of the fundraisers is Chipotle. I went to the manager one day and thought, gee, one night could we just have a fundraiser? So he asked me what I thought it would be like. And I said, if we could have a period from 5 to 8, and then you give us a certain percentage of the intake for that period of time to go towards myositis. Well, after he researched that it was a nonprofit organization and everything, he said yes. I did very little. I just advertised. That's all I did. All my friends and our family came in, and in that one night, 3-hour period, we raised $600. So it was just, that was a very easy thing to do. We have a support group. Oh my gosh, great people that come to the support group. And it's about 3.5 hours we have educational opportunities where we have presenters that help us with issues that we have. We have breakout sessions for particular diseases so that you can share your journey, ask questions of those that have the same disease that you have. And then we have potluck, which is always fun. And I'm not a control freak, so I do not say you bring applesauce or you bring drinks, and never has it not worked out. Every time there is enough drinks, enough food for everybody, so less stress. And we celebrate, we had one of our group that had twins, and so the cake is, we celebrated the fact that she had twins. But it's a great way to help others and to also support yourself. Okay, we have, it was mentioned that we do October 19th is a 5K walk, run, and roll that we do each year. This is our 10th anniversary, and it is tremendous fun. We have awareness right here, where we put that. That was my granddaughter's idea. I'm not into Twitter and I'm not into Instagram, so that was her idea. But we have vendors that come and set up and have giveaways, and it's a race that is an official race, so you can use that timing for other races if you're able to race. But it's just another way to raise money. I want a cure. How many in here want a cure? I want a cure. What can I do? What part can I play in getting that cure? And the only thing that I figure I can do, I'm not a doctor, the only thing I can do is to help raise money. And so that's what we do, is to help raise money. Okay. That gets me through every day. Every day holds the possibility of a miracle. And you know, one day we're going to have that miracle. We all pull together, support each other, and help the best we can to make it happen. And I'm going to pass it on to John. Thank you very much, and we'll have some question and answers later.
Thank you, Bitsy. Wonderful presentation. And I just have to fast forward over here to my little intro for John. John is a 29-year veteran of the U.S. Army, having served from the Vietnam era, 67, to Desert Storm, 96. He confided with me earlier that they told him if he joined, that they would pay for his college. Is that right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, I don't know if it was the bait and switch technique.
Yeah, some of it was.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. He was diagnosed with IBM in 1993 and currently serves as the chairman of the TMA Board of Directors. He and his wife Bonnie have enjoyed an active and challenging lifestyle despite his diagnosis. They enjoyed bicycling across the United States, sailboating, motorcycling, kayaking, among other activities. They are truly unstoppable. John?
And thank you, Jim. As Jim said, my journey started in 1993, and at that time, if I can get it up closer. No, that's all right. I can get it up here where I can talk. And at that time, I went through the same steps that almost every IBM patient goes through. You know, psychologists, psychiatrists tell us that we have to go through a grieving period, and there are certain steps that you go through. The loss of your previous life, you know, your anger, you're angry, you question, why did I get this disease? Well, I didn't look at it that way. I went through the steps very quickly, and then I said, what can I do, you know, to stay positive in my life? And I know that everybody goes through these. We go through the same steps, but, you know, it depends on who you ask. You know, what's the burden? I tend to be the dog that's much taller, you know, but I know there are a lot of myositis patients that feel like they're the dog that's much smaller. And all the stuff they're going through just consumes them, their life. Well, I chose not to let it control my life. I've always been a gypsy. When I was 3 years old, my mom and dad bought me a bike that had training wheels on it. For Christmas, I took one look at it and said, I'm not riding that sissy bike with those training wheels on it. So my dad took it off, took them off, pushed me up and down the driveway about 2 times, and my mom says after that they never saw me. So if she needed to find me, she would go around the neighborhood to all the houses of my friends and look for my bicycle lane in the front yard, and then she knew I was there. So I met Bonnie, my wife, my care partner, while we were bicycling in Harrisburg. I was building a magnetic resonance imaging machine there in Harrisburg. Some of you have had MRIs, so you know what I'm talking about, the jackhammer in the hollow tube. And I was on a bicycle. I had always ridden by myself, but since I was there, I thought, well, I'll go on a ride with a group. So I found out where the group was riding, and we went out about 10 miles on this ride. I think there were 8 of us, 2 women and 6 men, and it started raining, and our leader took off, and we couldn't find him. So we're standing under this barn. Everybody said, how are we going to get back? I don't know how to get back. Well, I'd never been in the area, but I have an innate sense of direction. So I said, well, I can get us back the route we came. You know, where you take a right, going back, you take a left. Where you take a left, going back, you take a right. You know, it's very simple to do. And I just had that built into me. So we got back, and here we are standing in the rain, and these 2 ladies are trying to load their bicycles into their car. And I go over to this one lady, and I said, you need some help? She says, sure. So I helped her load her bicycle, and the rest is history. We rode together. Average riding week would be 100 miles during the week. So we would ride 20 miles maybe every evening, or we would ride 40 miles one evening, and 10 or 15 the next, and then 100 miles on the weekend. So if you add that up, you quickly see that we were doing close to 10,000 miles on a bicycle every year. In 1993, I was diagnosed with myositis. In 1998, 5 years into my diagnosis, this picture was taken in Seattle, Washington, where we started our cross-country ride. We rode from Seattle, Washington, all the way back to Baltimore, Maryland, 7 weeks, 3,315 miles of togetherness. And I only left her on the roadside twice. My mom and her new husband, my stepdad, were our SAG vehicle, and they had a fifth wheel, so we camped, went across the country in that fifth wheel. So you can see, even though I was diagnosed, I wasn't as powerful a rider as I used to be, but we made out with her extra strength on the back, and we were able to do, the ride across America. We did this to raise money for MDA at that time, because I didn't know about TMA. It had just started. It was only 5 years old in its infancy. And then in 1991, I was called up for Desert Storm. I had spent 11 years active duty, and I was into 18 years serving in the reserves. So that's where I get the 29 years in the military. But I was called up for Desert Storm. I was sent to El Paso, Texas, to Fort Bliss with the support and supply unit of my hospital. We stayed here in the United States while the rest of my compadres went over to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia and worked at the King Faisal Hospital. And an interesting story about that is, in the Army you wear black boots. And when you're on certain types of surfaces, they scuff and they leave black marks. When the unit got to Saudi Arabia in King Faisal Hospital, they all marched up in front of the hospital. The hospital director came out and said, "I'm sorry, you can't work here because you all have black boots on. Walk inside, it's all white marble. Everything is white marble. The desks, the walls, everything is white marble. The fixtures are gold. That's a much different kind of hospital than we're used to, right?" So they called back and said, "Hey, we can't do this. We're going to have to find some foot gear that, we can wear in the hospital." Well, the commanding officer of the supply unit called back over to Riyadh, and don't you know, the next day there were 2 truckloads of sneakers sitting out front of the hospital that the king had ordered and paid for so that we could work in his hospital. So, but I rode my bicycle every day. I didn't let my disease stop me. It was about a 4 or 5 mile trip between the hospital and my barracks. So this is a picture of me on my way to work. Here we are again. We came back. When I came back, we were still riding our bicycle. Like I said, in 1998, we went across country. This was probably one of our last rides. We had always done the ride across Iowa. It's called the RAGBRAI. Those of you who are here in Minnesota have probably heard about it. Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. And it's 500 miles with 10,000 of your closest friends. Well, you're riding with them. But you don't know all 10,000. But we travel from point to point. It's not a straight point. And we average about 70 miles a day. So, as Bitsy said, you have to modify what you're doing because of your disease. So several years ago, I could no longer ride an upright bicycle because, as you can see, I've lost the strength in my upper arms and in my hands. I can't open my hands. Most IBM patients can't close it into a fist. I'm just the opposite for some reason. It affected my upper body before it affected my legs. So I changed my writing style, and I got this three-wheel recumbent. And as you can see, let me see, where's the pointer here? It's on the side.
That's the green right here.
Oh, the green. Okay. If you look right here, you can see those are the handlebars with the shifters and the brakes. And they're right down by my hips. So I didn't have to raise my hands. But you can see my pedals are way out here in front of me. And because I can still use my legs, I can lift my legs into the pedals and still pedal. And it's got a very comfortable seat. So I rode that for a couple of years until eventually my legs have started to give out. And I could no longer keep up with Bonnie or the group on the bicycle. So went to a different form of transportation. I've always been a motorcyclist in addition to being a bicyclist. And you can see I got a three-wheel gold-wing trike. And believe it or not, we've ridden this across the United States twice. So we've been across the United States in various different modes of transportation. We also did it, I have a fifth wheel RV, and I drove the fifth wheel RV with our truck, and Bonnie followed me all the way out to Oregon driving the motorcycle. So that shows you the dedication some of your life care partners will take to help you with your enjoyment and the things that you like to do. So that's our fifth wheel RV. One of the trips we stayed in Pennsylvania a little too long. I always told her, our trip was going to be if it was 70 degrees or warmer, we would go farther north. If it was 70 degrees or cooler, we'd go farther south. Well, we got caught one time. So. Don't give up on what you enjoy to do. We love to travel. And you never know when you're going to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Don't let the disease hamper you and keep you indoors. We went to Yellowstone and, to the Grand Canyon, and went to the visitor center and walked up. And if you walk up to that edge, you'll notice there's a barrier, a fence that keeps you back about 5 feet from the canyon. Well, if you hop on the bus and you take it up about 20 miles, they'll drop you off at a spot where you can walk right up to the edge. You can jump off there if you want to. So I was up there and I'm standing there looking at the Grand Canyon, and then there's a gentleman from Spain that I didn't know at the time, but I turned to him and I said, "Isn't this the greatest wonder in the world?" And he said, "Sir," he says, "I'm from Spain." And he says, "No, this is not the greatest wonder in the world. The Sahara is the greatest wonder in the world. It would fill the Grand Canyon 7 times over." And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, well, I guess you're right in that perspective." And as we turned around, on the path was an elk, and it was looking at us. And the elk went like this, and felt right there, watch me. And there's signs up all over: stay away from the elk, stay away from the bears, and stay away from the buffaloes. You're not supposed to be around the wildlife. Well, this elk turned around and starts walking up the path. We got to where the bus was supposed to pick us up, and you can see there's this water trough there, and it has a couple of faucets. The elk, where it's standing, there was a mud puddle. And it started drinking the mud puddle and drank it dry. And then it looked at me again and went. Now, obviously, it had done this before, right? So what I did is, you see, I'm turning the faucet on there, and if you look, there's a trough, and the elk is going down to drink out of the trough. And I did that for about 10 seconds. The bus pulled up, and out of the bus came a group with a 10-year-old young man standing there looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I turned that to him and I said, "You want a once-in-a-lifetime experience? Come over here and hold this faucet for this elk, because I guarantee you'll never do it again." So he came over, took over control of the faucet, and I got on the bus and went back to where my wife was. So I had a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and you can too. You know, it just depends on, you know, you making the attitude that you're going to go do something that you haven't done before. And I said, you know, I had to give up bicycling, but we are able, we bought a tandem kayak, it's a pedal kayak, Hobie kayak, and we're able to continue doing that. We get great enjoyment out of that. And if you want, you know, if you still can use your legs, you know, a little bit, still got that second person in there. It's great fun. I highly recommend it. You cannot fall out of one of these Hobie kayaks. They are so stable. Fishermen stand up in them and fish, even though they're only 34 inches wide. I still do a lot of the activities I did before I got myositis. I was a ham radio operator. I still am. This is one of my ham radios. It's brand new. I just got it. I like operating what they call QRP, which is it means I have the power of a flashlight trying to talk to somebody in Russia. Most people have the power of a 1,000-watt light bulb and easily talk to people around the world. So I like the challenge. I also like to carve. This is one of my carvings. I used to be able to carve with knives. I'm no longer, you know, control knives, so I use a Dremel tool. This is Chief Wanton Taka, who was a Cherokee that was captured by the Sioux when he was little, and he was the last war chief living from Custer's last stand. He died, I think, in 1921. I carved this for my grandson and gave it to him. Another thing I like to do is I like to do model sailboat racing because I can't race a real sailboat anymore. So I do model sailboats, RC. You know, it gives me a lot of enjoyment. So next is Chris, and Chris has got some exciting pictures and a good story for you. Here, you want this, Chris? You have a mic? You have a mic, all right.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
And next up, Chris is a retired U.S. Air Force officer and pilot. He has a rare form of IBM. He has the hereditary form, as did his father before him. Maybe more, but I'll let Chris tell you that. Chris's father, Jeff, passed away recently from that same disease. Although Chris's home is in Alaska, Wasilla, Alaska, he is currently in
Russia from there.
You can see Russia from there. Maybe not from Chris's porch, but actually from Tina Fey's porch. She was pale and never sad. It was. He is currently teaching flight simulators in Abu Dhabi and is a member of the TMA board of directors and hopefully moving back closer to us in the sometime near future. Chris.
Thank you very much. Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Well, everyone, hi, I'm Chris Dotur. I'm going to tell you about this climb that I did of Machu Picchu. So this was on my bucket list, and decided, you know what, I'd like to do that. So I actually consider myself very fortunate in that I have completed my bucket list. I don't have anything left. I don't know if there's many people that can say that in life, so I really consider myself fortunate that I've done that. Everything else in life from here on out is just gravy. So when you see this, my guess would be that one of three things comes to your mind. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you see this? Beautiful, gorgeous. What else? Okay, so it's exotic. It's in Peru. Oh my goodness, that's far away. That must be expensive to be there. That's probably the second thing you think of. Third thing, holy crap, look at all those stairs. So when I look at that, and you know, I have IBM, I've had it for several years, And the bucket list, something that there's a lot of stairs on that, so it's always been a daunting thing to look at and think about, looking at standing at the bottom of the mountain, looking up, and wow, how am I going to do this? So, my wife and I, as we've been talking about it, and I brought it up, like, hey, well, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just do Machu Picchu? And she said, well, oh my gosh, that's too many stairs. We can't do that. Oh, it's so expensive. So I took this perspective. Next year, am I going to have any more money than I do right now? Next year, am I going to be able to climb this any better than I am right now? Nope. So you know what? Me doing this, it's not going to be optimal. I'm not a 16-year-old stud anymore, and I'm going to be able to run up that thing 3 times. No, it's not going to be optimal. It's not going to be perfect, but life is not perfect. Life with our disease is not perfect. So you know what? Let's just do it, and let's just make the best of what we have. Let's just do the best we can. So I said, darn it, I'm doing that. So booked the tickets to this big South America trip, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but determination, I determined, you know what? Darn it, I'm doing it, whatever it takes to do that. Now, how did I do that? Okay, so none of us can just run upstairs anymore, right? Including me, even though I am still fairly early on in the disease. So one of the ways that I did it is with these trekking poles. And if you don't know about trekking poles, you need to get yourself a set of trekking poles. So when you see these, the first thing that probably comes to mind is, oh, mountain hiking. And I don't do mountain hiking, so no, those aren't any good for me. But no, trekking poles are not for mountain climbing, and they're actually not for Machu Picchu. But I use them to do this. So trekking poles are just for everyday life and walking around. Those of you that can't hold a cane anymore, well, guess what? You got this little strap up here. And the strap holds, you actually can't fall out of your hand. And when you use a trekking pole correctly, let's see, this one's for the left hand. When you use it correctly, what you do is you put your hand up through the strap like this, and then back down on the handle. Now, what that does for you is instead of you using your grip strength to push on the pole and then your hand slides down, now with my hand in here, when I push down and I use it like this, I'm pushing on it. I don't even have to grip it. I don't have to have any grip strength. Just by me pushing with my arm, I'm pushing on it and I'm assisting my legs. So when I put both of them on like this, the true way to use trekking poles is just for walking. And it's like this. It's not, I'm climbing up the mountain like this. It's like this behind me. Now as I walk, I'll give you a little demonstration here. As I walk, I'm just using my standard stride, and they're assisting me as I walk. So they help my balance, they help my posture. So I have a lot of lower back weakness. So me holding them like this, I'm able to hold myself up by pushing just a little bit with my arms, stand up straight, and it feels good. Right now, I'm not kidding, it's taking pressure off my lower back, and it feels great. Now, walking up inclines. Now, instead of me pushing just with my legs, I'm also assisting pushing with my arms. And every step that I make, pushing with my leg and pushing with the arm at the same time, it helps go up, and it helps me climb stairs. So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do you climb Machu Picchu? One step at a time. And that sounds trite, like, okay, yeah, whatever, that's a nice saying, but I'm not kidding. One step at a time. So that's how I did it. I have found that I can do anything if I do it very, very slow and deliberately. So it takes me 3, maybe 5 times as long as everybody else, but I was able to climb all the way, from way down here, climb all the way up, and all the way up, and all the way up, one step at a time. So the way that I do that, when I'm at the bottom stairs, I'm looking up, I'm going, oh my gosh, that looks so terrible. Well, one step at a time. So I put the poles up on the next step, we'll take one step, and I rest. One step, and I rest. If I try to go step, 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 I can do that about 3 times, and then I'm done, and I'm worn out. My endurance is gone. But if I just go one step at a time, I can still do something like this and do it indefinitely. One step at a time, very, very slowly and steady, and the slow and steady pace wins the race. So that's how I did this, cross this off the bucket list. Now, I'm going to brag just a little bit. after this trip, earlier on this year, I actually went to Israel and to Jordan. And this was actually not intentional, but it just happened to complete my 7 wonders of the world. So Machu Picchu is one of the new 7 wonders of the world. And then by doing that, and then going to Petra, that completed my 7 wonders. So the other things are on the 7 wonders. There's me at the Roman Colosseum in Italy, the Corcovado statue of Christ the Redeemer at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and a little fun factoid: the harbor here in Rio de Janeiro, and more so back behind me there, is one of the natural 7 wonders of the world.
Chris?
Yes.
Did you walk up there, or how did you get up to the top?
Both. A hike up. So this is taken from on top of Sugarloaf Mountain, which you may have heard about in Rio. So I did partially hike up this, and there's also a tram that takes people from there up to at least part of the way up Sugarloaf Mountain. Also, 7 wonders, Chichen Itza in Mexico. There's me climbing the Great Wall of China. I was a little bit younger back then. I was still in the active duty in the Air Force. Taj Mahal, that we have a site in my current job that's in New Delhi, India. So I went to the Taj Mahal actually several times. Beautiful place. And that's the 7 wonders site. Something I didn't even have on my bucket list. Crossed off all 7 wonders. And yeah, pretty cool about that. So the last thing I want to talk about here is on the theme of myositis doesn't stop my life, is shifting from what your identity was and your desires were. Keep as many of those desires as you can and find alternatives. So you've heard John and Bitsy talk about how they have found alternatives. So my alternatives, all I've ever wanted to do in life from the time I was 2 years old was to be a pilot and to be an Air Force officer. I never wanted to be a fireman, a policeman, and anything else. I only wanted to be a pilot and be an Air Force officer. And I worked hard my whole life to do that, made it, got through the Air Force Academy, and became a pilot and did really, really well. So I also consider myself fortunate in that I have done what I've always wanted to do. That was my dream job. I was able to do it. Now, because I was so focused on that, that was part of my identity. Specifically, and men are like this a lot, right? That a lot of our identity, how we identify ourselves, is in our job and what we do. So when I got my disease, I was involuntarily retired from the military before I really wanted to leave the military. And suddenly, that part of my identity is all gone. I'm no longer a officer, and I'm no longer a pilot. I'm no longer flying for the Air Force. So what are the alternatives? And I'll be honest with you, when I retired, man, I was really depressed. This huge part of my life, this identity of me, who are you? I'm a pilot. That's kind of cool to say, right? Who are you? I'm a pilot. Who are you? Think about who you are. What's your identity? And what if that was taken away from you? Maybe that's already been taken away from you with your disease. So who are you? Well, I'm a pilot. So a part of it is redefining my identity. And this question right here, what is really important? Is it important in life that I'm a pilot? Well, no. That's something that was important to me, part of my identity, something I like to do. But is that important? Or is life important? And family? And is God important? Those kind of things. Much, much more important than flying an airplane. But as far as an alternative, what I did eventually was find a job as a flight instructor. So now what I do is I'm still on the same airplane. This is me in Alaska. This is my favorite picture of the C-17 in Alaska. So that's my unit, my airplane down there, flying down in Glacier in Alaska. And here we are flying at Frankfurt, taking off into the sunset. So I'm still on the same airplane. But instead of me being a green suit, active duty military person pilot, I now teach pilots in the simulator. So I'm the guy that's sitting behind them, that I make their engines explode on them and that kind of stuff, to train them how to handle emergencies in the simulator. I'm no longer on the airplane, and I miss flying. I miss flying every day. But by me still being able to connect to what was part of my identity. I don't necessarily consider it as a part of my identity anymore, but it has provided me so much relief and satisfaction to be able to continue that in an alternative fashion. And one of my focuses that I've had is to do what I can while I can still do it. Can I climb Machu Picchu? Yeah, okay, so do it. Can I still fly in some sense? Kind of, okay, so do it. Can I take all this knowledge that I've learned about how to fly and little tips and tricks in the C-17, how to be in combat, how to keep yourself alive, your crew alive, I can take that now and pass that on to the next generation and make them a better pilot and prevent them from having any sort of accident. And that is really rewarding to me. So just a couple other travel places that I've been. So that's at Guazú Falls. This is the Uyuni Salt Flats in Bolivia, and that's Yosemite, California. All right, so I'm Chris Dotur, and myositis does not stop my life. I encourage you to join us in that journey and to be able to make that statement. Myositis does not stop my life. What is your story of myositis? Craft your story of your myositis story, and not just so you can brag to others or tell people, oh, look what I did, look at these great pictures, look at me, look at me. It is, what do you enjoy your myositis story for yourself? That is what I'll do. Okay, and I think, Jim, we have time for questions.
We got time for questions, and I've got a microphone in case you don't speak loud enough. Who's got some mic for you? I can do it. If I can, what does it say there in the slide before? If I can still do it, I can do it. Okay, I can handle the mic. Any questions, please? These amazing stories, and every one of those is an inspiration to me.
Chris, I remember a long time ago, because I've been around this block. I remember when you were sitting on the paddleboard and you were kind of depressed. And you shared that. And I said, today I'm so enamored that you heard of that. And maybe you could share one or two comments on how you got over that hurdle.
Sure, yeah, I don't mind talking about it. So as I mentioned, when I retired, man, I went into a slump. It's a huge part of my identity that's gone. I'm losing function of my body. Holy crap, what's going on? I'm getting kicked out of the military. What am I going to do for an income? So I am much younger than a lot of the demographics here. And I have not had a full, this is happening to me during my peak wage earning years. So how am I going to support my family? And all these burdens and worries and whatnot are just piling up on me. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. So I'll be honest with you, I had to have help. So how did I do that? So I actually fessed up to it. I think I need help, and I went out and have talked to counselors. Thankfully, the VA has been very good to me in helping through things, and I joined a combat veteran support group that met once a week in Alaska, and talked with them about that and some of my combat experiences, and that has really helped. Another part of it is, just like I talked about, is forcing myself to find alternatives in the things that I enjoy to still feel satisfied in life. So I think those are the two things. Great question.
John, you have a fifth wheel, looks like there. What modifications have you had to make to that to accommodate? My wife has IBM, and muscle weakness and muscle soreness is kind of a problem. Getting up and down the stairs out of the RV is sometimes, once or twice a day is about it.
Yeah, as you saw in the slide, fifth wheels sit about 4 to 5 foot off of the ground, because you have a 22-inch usually rim on them. So you have steps to go up. Mine had 4 steps to go up. The modifications that I had them make, I was still able at that time to climb steps. But there are companies that make a lift that you can put on instead of the steps. It's like a real small platform with raised handrails, and you walk onto that, and it goes straight up to the door, and you're able to go in the door that way. Yes. Yeah. I had some modifications made to mine for my knees. Like I said, I lost my arms first. So the power cables on those are very heavy. They're like double-aught gauge wire. So you got a 50-foot long hunk of this wire you got to plug in. It probably weighs 250 to 300 pounds. And to wrap that up, roll it up, and put it away and store it is a job. So I had them put a power reel on there. It's like a winch that's on a car, and the winches, as you know, you can have a 20-ton winch. So 300 or 400 pounds of cable is not going to stop that winch. So I had them do that. I had them raise the toilet. People don't think about that, I don't know what your toilet's like in this hotel, but I call mine the squatty potty because it's only about a foot off the floor. I'm not in a handicap room, and I'll tell you, it's a job. And so when they manufactured it for me, I had them raise it about 6 inches on a platform. So I had a standard height toilet that was 6 inches high. And, I'm not used to having my feet dangle when I sit on the toilet, but they did there. Some other things that I had them do, you have to, people don't think about it, you have to hook the water and the sewer up every time you move. So I had them put a quick disconnect water cable on there on a reel. And all I had to do was just run it over to the hose, quick connect onto the hose bib. And when I was done, I disconnected and it would wind up. I gave it a little jerk on it and it would wind up for me. In the sewer, I had them, instead of a slinky tube, which is sort of like on a dryer, you have that, it's expandable aluminum pipe that you put to the wall. That's what a slinky tube is on the thing. I had them put hard PVC that would expand. They slid in and out of each other and were sealed with O-rings. So it can be done. You have to look at your wife's needs and talk to the manufacturer of the RV and tell them what you need. Of course, you're going to pay for it, but you can continue to RV that way. So don't let it stop you and your wife from RV.
Thank you.
I think we have time for at least one more question. Does anybody else? Oh, you're just telling me, yeah, one, okay. She's the police. I'm sorry, yeah, okay.
So we're.
Oh, the microphone, please.
Yeah.
It's gotta go through here.
We're kind of moving into the next stage where we can't get up steps, we can't, there's more limitations, but we do want to travel. And my question, I guess, we're trying to, and we have traveled, but we're trying to figure out, before you go, do you try and figure out all the obstacles, or when you get there, do you try and figure out the obstacles?
Sure. I'll answer your question on traveling. This summer, my wife and I went to Europe for 2 weeks. I took my power wheelchair, and there's a company that I'm going to give you their name. The name is Sage Travel. And you look up on the internet, I think it's Sage, S-A-G-E, traveling.com.
Sage Travel.
And John Sage is disabled. He's in a wheelchair and has been, since he was, I think, 18 or 17. He goes all over the world and maps out accessible routes that if you want to go to Paris, and we all know Paris and Italy, Rome and Italy, they have many, many stairs to get from one place to the other, but he has mapped it out so that you can, get to these places. You may have to go a block or 2 blocks out of the way. I'm not pushing his. There are other accessible travel places, but he does an excellent one, and I've used him. So you don't have to. He'll send you a booklet telling you, how the whole trip's going to be. So you don't have to worry what hotels to use and what restaurants.
Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's the other thing, is we need to figure out mobility a little more.
I can tell you, Kathy and I are leaving actually in less than a week for Ireland.
That's where I want to go.
Okay, well, maybe we'll go first and we can help you back. But, and we were supposed to go a year ago. I tore tendons in my knee and I couldn't go. We had to cancel the trip.
Same story.
A year ago, I didn't care whether, I cared if it was handicap accessible, but it wasn't crucial. This year, we're taking my little power chair with us, lightweight power chair. And we use booking.com, but I think any of those booking agents can do it. You check the little box that says you need wheelchair accessibility, you need, this kind of thing. And it limited the number of places that we could stay, but it's going to be interesting because I don't think, in Europe, my understanding, they don't really have, like we have here, the ADA. So I'm worried about the curb cutouts. When you get to an intersection, I'm worried about the little curb cutout that we can go. We'll figure it out. So we're planning as best we can ahead of time to answer your question, and we're going to have to adapt when we get there. Again, thank you for your attendance. Please fill out your evaluations, and thank you, and God bless you.
I just want to mention also that MDA has a wonderful resource if you call your local office about what is available for you, what you're entitled to for travel. So, hello. I have some information for you.